try to make light
insulting.
of the fact
How disgusting.
that 50,000 people are dying. And I decided this was a time to tell a joke, kind of like when he told his model joke. So, Mika, the thing, though, he still has defenders, people who actually once, and I find this to be kind of funny, actually, that people who once called themselves conservatives, who once claimed to be conservatives, who once claimed to follow the teachings of people like William F. Buckley or follow the leadership style of Ronald Reagan. Yeah. These people are now defending Donald Trump at every turn. And what they do is when he humiliates himself, they just turn and they attack the press. And, of course, they've done it again. Oh, why are you all even listening? What? Because people could die because of his bad information. By the way, people are dying because this federal government's response has been incompetent for 4 months. I mean, and the most extreme example of this anti-Trump nonsense was when Donald Trump said that he had total authority when he was channeling Mussolini. And what did some people in the press go, oh, let's look at the media. Let's see how they respond to this. Now, looking at the media, when the president of the United States was talking like Mussolini, claiming he had total authority, total control. And they decided that was the time to see what people on cable news were saying, or to see what people on talk radio were saying, or seeing what people online were saying. It is such a dereliction of duty from people who, again, once claimed to be conservative. William F. Buckley is rolling over in his grave. It's despicable. It's disgusting. These people that were once, quote, movement conservatives, so many of them have now just morphed into being nothing more than a Trump a cult, personality cult. And that's why they can't even admit that this president is unfit for his office and that people are going to die in the future because of this, unless somebody figures out a way to get him to focus, be serious, and put seniors first, put people with pre-existing health conditions first, put this nation's health and safety and well-being first.
So, you know, a lot of the president's pawns, whether they're in the media or whatever, will say, oh, you know, Joe and Mika are so upset. You know what? I want to point out something you said this weekend on your Instagram Live. You would love to see the president be competent in this crisis. Unfortunately,
I want him to succeed.
That's not what we're getting. Yeah. And people are dying. So if you see a lot of emotion coming from this show, it's because we are frightened for the American people at this point, given the fact that the White House has shown zero competence in this crisis.
Well,
as it pertains to
it hasn't gotten better. And the thing is, the people whose lives are on the line are senior citizens.
That's
and it doesn't matter whether they're Republicans or Democrats, whether they watch Fox News or MSNBC, whether they're not even involved in politics. Yeah. This lack of response over the past 4 months, this lack of focus by the president of the United States on what he calls a, quote, war, this attempt constantly to try to blame others and not take power into the White House and use that power to have a universal testing response. So senior citizens can be safe. So younger people can go back out into the workspace. So small businesses can open up safely.
Right.
You can tell small businesses to open up safely, Mika, but if people aren't comfortable going to those businesses, it does no good. That rests entirely with the president's failed testing response. He's got to get it right moving forward.
Just to button up on the briefings, I want to get to Casey, but what you saw, sort of what you've put together here in terms of the three big lies of the past few weeks, maybe month, and how it ended terribly for the president having to walk out, cower out of the briefing room and take no questions, which you know drives him crazy, which is why he was rage tweeting. But to explain the behavior moving back, what you had was a president who had no good news, no new material to work with. And it got so bad by the end of the week that he came up with this crack idea that he got from some person who talked to 5 minutes ago about the disinfectants being ingested into the body. This is a guy who is so hell-bent on trying to frame it around himself that he will literally do and say anything and then try and take it back saying he was being sarcastic and that he wasn't talking to Dr. Birx, when it's very clear on the videotape he says her name Deborah and is pointing at her and she responds back to him. So you want to take a look at that just in case you read the president's tweet and he said he didn't mean it, he was just being sarcastic and he wasn't actually talking to Dr. Deborah Birx. Take a look.
I would like you to speak to the medical doctors to see if there's any way that you can apply light and heat to cure. You know, if you could. And maybe you can, maybe you can't. Again, I say maybe you can, maybe you can't. I'm not a doctor. But I'm like a person that has a good, you know what.
But, sir, you're the president.
Deborah, have you ever heard of that? The heat and the light relative to certain viruses, yes, but relative to this virus?
Not as a treatment. I mean, certainly fever is a good thing when you have a fever. It helps your body respond. But not as, I've not seen heat or light.
I think it's a great thing to look at.
Deborah,
so absolutely horrifying for Deborah.
And here was a tweet from last night where the president said, just informed that the fake news from Thursday had me speaking and asking questions of Dr. Deborah Birx. Wrong. I was speaking to our laboratory expert, not Deborah, about sunlight.
Deborah.
So hold on a second. This is a tweet on, when was this, Friday? Friday. I was just informed that the fake news, see, this is a whole projection or confession thing, and says that he was speaking and asking questions of Dr. Deborah Birx. Let's play that clip again, Alex, again. And here's the amazing thing. There are still people who are following the personality cult that like that. And like, yeah. Oh, yeah. People all over the country that support Donald Trump said, yeah, he wasn't talking to Dr. Birx. Let's play the videotape, okay? See what you think.
I would like you to speak to the medical doctors to see if there's any way that you can apply light and heat to cure. You know, if you could. And maybe you can, maybe you can't. Again, I say maybe you can, maybe you can't. I'm not a doctor. But I'm like a person that has a good, you know what.
But, sir, you're the president.
Deborah, have you ever heard of that? The heat and the light relative to certain viruses, yes, but relative to this virus?
Not as a treatment. I mean, certainly fever is a good thing when you have a fever. It helps your body respond. But not as, I've not seen heat or light.
I think it's a great thing to look at.
She is so patient and she is doing her best. And this woman has the most incredible career, incredible life story. And now she is dedicating every minute, every second of her day to helping save Americans from this virus and find an incompetent president his way through it. And yet he does that to her to try. I don't know. Does he know that he's damaging her? Does he know he's putting her in a terrible position with a quack idea and forcing her to talk about heat and light? And she has to grasp for an answer and explain to him that maybe a fever, but no. But no, you're an idiot. You're a moron is what she's thinking.
You know,
okay? And you can see it on her face. And I'm really sorry, Mr. President, that you put her in that position, this really reputable, credible, unbelievably prepared woman who has spent her entire life getting ready for a crisis like this. And you're a joke. And you try and make a joke of the entire situation.
People have been begging, Mika, people have been begging the president to get focused on testing for 3 months now. I think 3 months, 2 months, 3 months. And yet they've had to push away scam ideas about bleach, scam ideas about inserting lights into people, scam ideas about a malaria drug that the FDA says will kill people. Scam ideas about the pandemic not coming back in the fall. Well, that's just not true. And of course, that was in March. Scam ideas about the heat coming in April and magically having this virus go away. This magical April that we're in, actually, more Americans are going to die this month than, by the end of the month than died in Vietnam, the total tally. And then you go back to February, he's talking about it magically going away. In January, he's saying it's nothing to worry about. It's only one person. It's only 11 people. It's only 15 people. They've been dealing with him pushing these scam ideas in his year of magical thinking for 4 months now, instead of working to do what every medical and scientific leader said, which is develop expansive testing. And no, not
That's why he has
total,
to cover, 'cause
per
he hasn't done
capita
it. So-
expansive testing so people can get back to work.